Well, we took the pre-trip. That started.
Okay, good morning. Morning, everybody. Grab your third cup of coffee and a cookie and we'll get started. So, beautiful day. I will kick off the meeting with morning prayer. And then Dave will have an announcement. Rhoda will introduce our speaker and then we will be educated. So with that, stay there. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this glorious day, the changing of the seasons, the beautiful fall colors today and throughout the fall. Thank you for this blessing of beauty. Ask that you be with us today as we learn about family services and how they help our community and how we can help them. Just ask that you be with us as we journey through this day and the week. Be with us all. Bless this day. Amen.
Amen.
David? Oh, he abandoned us. Hey, David.
You went out someplace.
Oh, he didn't watch the clock. Okay, so we'll let David do his announcement at the end. Rhoda, would you come forward and do the intro, please?
So I'm introducing Mark Butler, who's the Executive Director of Family Services of Chester County. And one of the reasons I'm doing this because many years ago, I began my career in social service at Family Service. And as a client there for a short time, right after I graduated from college, the executive director had a position and he hired me. And so I worked there for 9 years and then moved on to Quaker Not-for-Profit. And now I'm on the board, serving on the board. I think this is my 5th year, so might have one more to go. And I'm on the board because Bert Rothenberger was serving on the board and asked me if I would consider becoming a board member. So I applied and here I am. And it's really been a very rewarding position to have with the agency. So Mark Butler joined the agency about 3.5 years ago. In February, it'll be 4. And he came to us from being the Director of Community Services for Carson Valley, serving Philadelphia and Montgomery counties. Did I say this? He worked there for 27 years. He is also serving on a board called Impact Services, which is a community development organization in Kensington. He is also on the board of Coatesville Community Health Center, and I did not know that, so I'm thrilled. He also serves with Mount Airy Bantam Youth Football. What a big contrast. He's married, he has 2 sons. The oldest one I hear about from time to time because he's very interested in basketball and very good from what I understand. Both of his parents are living and we talk about that from time to time. So please welcome Mark Butler.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm so very happy to be with you here today. Actually, this is my first time doing a presentation post-COVID with a group of people. It really feels good. So I'm happy to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Is it being recorded, Ted?
Yes.
So as Rhoda mentioned, my name is Mark Butler. I'm the Executive Director of Family Services in Chester County since February of 2019. Right before the pandemic started is when I started. And here we are 3.5 years later, and what a whirlwind. But I want to talk to you about a lot of the things that we're doing at Family Service and your great agency and a lot of the things that we're doing with Family Service. I think you guys will appreciate. It's about supporting our community, lifting others up, and really just meeting folks where they are. I would like to thank Rhoda for having me here today. Rhoda has been one of my strongest supporters and the strongest supporter for family service since I've been on board. And I talked a little bit about Rhoda's relationship and what she has provided for family service in a minute. But I just want to say that family service has a rich history with Westminster Presbyterian Church. It's my understanding that you guys have been supporting us since 2014 in various ways. The first way was with our Project One program, which is a medical case management program for those who are living with HIV. And then through the years, there have been other programs such as our ECFC program, Exchange Club Family Center, which is our program for families to prevent child abuse prevention. So you guys were a big supporter of that. And then most recently, there have been capital projects, and the Good Works program through Gary came on board and really supported our building and did some painting projects, which we are very thankful for. But I have learned really quickly that Westminster Presbyterian Church and all the members have really been huge supporters of our work for the community. And we really are thankful to be here talking to you today. I want to share a little bit about my background before we talk about family service, so you guys get a sense of who I am. As Rhoda mentioned, I worked at an agency for 27 years prior to coming to family service. Nowadays, I don't know how often you see folks stay at an agency for 27 years, but this agency was an amazing agency that really tried to meet folks where they were. My first job coming out of college was, and thank you, Ted, for saying I don't look that old, but I am that old. My first job coming out of college was a mental health worker, working with youth who had to be removed from their home and residential placement. Anyone who knows, any youth who has to be removed from their home, it's probably the biggest trauma of their life. And these youth, they were some of the most difficult youth in the Philadelphia and Montgomery County area because they had experienced a lot of trauma. Mother and father on drugs, dad incarcerated, poverty, a whole bunch of challenges. So my first job was to be a mental health worker working with those youth. And I had some valuable lessons learned around just meeting folks where they are, not taking anything personally, and understanding that we all have challenges, some greater than others, but you want to meet folks where they are and try to build relationships with them to support them. Family service. Carson Valley was the agency that I grew to love, and I was able to move up through the ranks. And I came as I was a therapist for about 7 years, which was my favorite job after I received my master's degree. I believe like the best way to engage with folks is that one-on-one relationship. So having some relationships with some of those young people and helping them navigate the problems of everyday life and their family issues was probably the most rewarding for me. And then nationally, I moved to some administrative roles, where most recently, as Rhoda mentioned, I was the director of our community services programs. So it was really hard for me, and it was challenging for me to actually live in a place where I kind of grew up. But I came to a family service and immediately fell in love. The first 2 years, like I mentioned, we started with COVID. And two of the folks who are on our board of directors, Bert Rothenberger and Rhoda McNitt, and as well as the rest of the board of directors, really helped my transition to a new agency. This was an agency where the faces were new, the territory was new, but the work was the same as far as lifting people up and helping others who were vulnerable and didn't have access to the supports that they needed. Bert, and I know many of you guys know Bert, he's one of the most resourceful guys that I've ever met in my life. If there's anything around Chester County you want to know about it, you ask Bert, he's going to give you some answers. And often when I think about Bert, I think about what my dad, pointed me to proverb, for those for the grace of God go I. And I think about Bert when I think about that because, I imagine Bert his passion for doing this work and supporting others is him putting himself in other people's shoes. And the other person who was really instrumental for me in my anxiety, and Rhoda, I was a nervous wreck. A nervous wreck, leading an organization, who me, right? But during COVID, at a time where mental health challenges were plentiful, folks were not used to engaging because we were separated from each other. there were so many issues around social issues, economic issues. And the family service was right in the middle of that, trying to support others and lifting folks up. And Rhoda was my board chair for 2 years. And what Rhoda brought to our agency, and for me more personally, was just a commitment to understanding that even through these tough times, she and as well as the other board of directors were going to be there for our agency and for our work. So for that, I always will thank you, Rhoda, and thank you for, and the rest of our board members, just thanking you guys for helping family service and me personally get through a really tough time during COVID. So thank you for that. So family service, my first interaction with family service. Well, before I even talk about that, I want to talk about some of the lessons learned that I bring to this work. There are 3 lessons learned that I bring to this work. And the first one is the power of relationship and working with this population. Talked a little bit about it a second ago, but I believe that if you're an active listener, you try to meet folks where they are, put yourself in their shoes. That can help you and help us try to relate folks at a more personal level and try to lift them up. So that was the first lesson learned that was huge for me. The second lesson was the lesson around trauma-informed care. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the person, Dr. Sandra Bloom, but she has a model called the sanctuary model. And it talks about really not looking at when you're working with vulnerable individuals and families. One of the concepts is you look at them from a lens of what has happened to you versus what is wrong with you. So that thought around, really looking at someone who may not have the resources or may not have a family to support them, or their income may not support them getting a job. Looking at them from a perspective of what has happened to you kind of makes the work a little easier as you go through the day-to-day challenges in supporting them. So that was the second lesson that I learned. And I think one of the other lessons that I learned is that the value of teamwork. Rhoda, you might have heard me say this before, but one of my favorite books is Good to Great by Jim Collins. And one of the principles, concepts of that book is getting the right people on your bus. And what I easily found when I came to family service, that our previous executive director, Burroughs Mack, had did an amazing job of getting the right people on our bus. So we have 7 programs now, and we have directors and staff members who are really engaged and passionate about this work. You guys know nonprofit, we're not getting compensated in a way where folks in nonprofit are not getting the dollars that they should for the work that's being done. Rhoda, we all need a raise.
We're working on it.
But the team, every last one of the team members that I met when I came to family service just really seemed to get it and really have passion about supporting others. And the value of teamwork is amazing. And I'm really so proud of the team that we have there. But when I look at the family service team, I look at our definition of team as a broad one. The first is our staff members that we talked about. I see 4 components to this. The first one is our team members. The second one is our amazing board of directors who lend their talent and their time to us to try to support our mission. The third is our partners. We partner with United Way of Chester County, United Way of Southern Chester County, Office of Children and Youth from the county, Westminster. You guys are an amazing partner. But I think that whole collective impact where we can do more together as a team is valuable to our team. And then lastly, I think, and arguably the most important partner that we have are the clients and the folks that allow us to support them. They allow us to come into their homes, or they come to us for counseling, and we build relationships with them to try to lift them up. So, I just wanted to mention that those were the things that I believe are really important to this work, and some of the valuable lessons that I can bring, that I believe I brought to family service. So now I want to talk about this wonderful organization that I've come to love and just adore, which is Family Service of Chester County. We just celebrated our 75th anniversary. 75 years of amazing service. Rhoda and Bob, you guys were there. But when you talk about what was going on 75 years ago, Family Service originated as an agency that was supporting folks who were struggling with the challenges around mental health after the Second World War. Divorce, economic issues, some of the same issues that we're facing today. Family Service was a critical agency in providing support to the community during that time. 75 years ago, the cost of gas was 15 cents a gallon. How much did you guys pay for gas today? I think I saw $3.92, right? But a lot of different things were happening 75 years ago. Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier for an African American playing in baseball. And the Cold War, we were in the middle of the Cold War. There were a bunch of different things going on. But for the purpose of today's conversation, Family Service, a great agency, just really started doing this great work. Our mission is to provide life-changing individual and family support by removing barriers and providing access to counseling, case management, youth services, and family programs. Last year, we went through a process with all of our staff members and our board members to try to identify who we are and how we have changed and what is our new mission. And anytime you come up with a new mission, you certainly want to get the feeling and the thoughts of all those who are providing the work. So we were proud to say that we had a good team pull together with our mission statement to kind of reflect who we are. Really meeting folks where they are, providing support to those who are vulnerable, and having a process where there's no barriers to access. So that's the core of our mission statement, where our vision is to empower Chester County residents to be healthy, supported, and fully integrated into our community. We're also going through a strategic planning process right now, which our board is, we have a few of our board members who are really skilled at leading us through that process. We've identified the 4 core areas that we want to work on as far as our strategic plan, which are program expansion, our HR issues, some administrative issues. And then lastly, I think there was fiscal HR program and administration. So really happy that we're going through that now as an agency. We're continuing to evolve and build on a lot of the things that we've done in the past. So I want to talk to you about some of our programs. Our anchor program is our counseling program. Since 1947, again, we delivered that program to the vulnerable. Right now, in the middle of COVID, mental health is a huge challenge for us all. The counseling program has been a centerpiece for Family Services work. And I invite all of Westminster Presbyterian Church to come to our building and our main office at 310 Matlack Street in Westchester. One of the things when I first came into our building, it's a beautiful building, a little more than 100 years old. But when you come in there, it feels like family, it feels like support. So one of the things I noticed that my office is right near the reception area, and this was pre-COVID, so we were having individuals still coming into the office for individual counseling sessions. And I have a little bit of ADHD, undiagnosed, but what I would often do is come out and see a lot of the clients in the waiting area. And what you would see is just so many folks who felt like, this is home, this is home, this is home. This is a place where I feel safe and talk about the issues and challenges that I may be presented with. So counseling has been at the core of what we do. And good works, Gary and team. If you're watching this, thank you. You guys were amazing at painting our building. There were a few offices that the Good Works crew came in and painted our building to help give it a new energy, so that when our clients and our counselors are in there, it feels like a place of home. So recently for our counseling program, because of its strong reputation in providing support with mental health, we've established another relationship with the Kennett Consolidated School District. So most recently, we partnered with them, and we're providing therapy in 5 of their 6 schools there. They came to Family Service because of our reputation around being strong in counseling, saying, okay, right now, their young people are suffering with mental health and having some significant mental health challenges. And we understand that family service is good at supporting folks in counseling, and would like to provide counselors in 5 or 6 of their schools. So, our core program is allowing us to do other work and reach out to other areas. And I'm hearing that other school districts may want to follow with a similar model just to support all of our youth in the area of mental health, especially post-COVID or restoring COVID. But so that's our anchor program. Funneling out of our anchor program, we have 6 other programs I feel like on our continuum of care support each other. The next one that I'll talk to you about is our Exchange Club Family Center, which is a national program for to prevent child abuse and child abuse prevention and education. When you look at it, it's similar to the old family preservation model, where the goal is to ensure that families are safe, they're intact, and you want to prevent the need for out-of-home placement for those children. We recently expanded that program through a relationship with the County of Chester and the Office of Children and Youth, and they've asked us to build case management into that, where we're able to support 20 to 30 more families who are at risk for child abuse and prevent child abuse and neglect. Another huge program for us. You heard me mention earlier our Project One program, which is a program that Westminster has always supported, I think since 2014. But that's our medical case management for those living with HIV. 30 years ago, when we first heard of HIV, we thought that it was automatic death sentence. We didn't know what was coming about. Here we are 30 years later, and folks are living with HIV. Magic Johnson looks amazing to me. I mean, when you look at Magic, he's a product of advanced medicine and support. But this program has medical case managers who are the goal is to lift that what's the word I'm looking for? There's a stigma, I guess there was a stigma around those who had HIV, to try to support those who are living with that stigma and link them to the supports, whether it's behavioral health, mental health, employment, or anything. You look to your assessment to try to keep them stable. So that program has been with us for 20-some years and continues to do good work. We have our volunteer program, our volunteer drivers program, Zoom, which is, and this is probably our smallest program, but for me, it's one of my favorite, because it kind of shows the philanthropic spirit for Chester County, the Chester County community. This program is designed to provide rides for those who have difficulty getting access to their medical appointments or their mental health appointments. And you have volunteer drivers who don't mind putting a person that they don't know in their car to take them to their medical appointment. I found out that there was a gentleman who took Spanish because of some of his clients that he was taking to their appointments. He took Spanish because he didn't know how to relate to that person. So for me, I just said that, someone who really gets it and says, I want to meet this person where they are, do away with the language barrier. And for folks, who say, I don't know you, I respect the issue and challenges that you have, and you get in my car and I want to take you to your medical appointment. Really, that just shows the spirit of Chester County and the willingness of people to pick others up and meet them where they are. So that's Zoom. Hope I'm not boring you guys by going through all these programs. I'm trying to do it kind of quickly so then we can go through question and answer. But I kind of want you guys to get the sense of who we are and what we do. Our next program is our supportive housing program, which is designed for a transition age youth who were either in the child welfare system or had some challenges with the juvenile probation office. The idea is that they are between the ages of between 18 and 24, but they are deemed appropriate enough to live independently. they have the skills that they can live independently, just need a little bit of support. So we provide case management support to those folks in the form of case management, around getting a job, maintaining a job, the skills that will help you get a job, maintain a job, time management, organization, resume building, and those kinds of things. And then getting an apartment and sustaining your apartment. For those young people who have been in the system and have had not a lot of support in their life, when you have a case manager who can kind of lead them and navigate through some of the challenges, it's an important pickup. So we're happy to support that population. 2 more programs, and then I'm going to kind of open it up, guys. We have our Familias Unidas program, which is designed for the immigrant population. You guys know there's a heavy immigrant population in Southern Chester County. This program is designed to help parents of youth who are exhibiting risky behaviors, and to help them identify better parenting skills, better protective factors in dealing with challenging youth. And this is a program that we work with through the county in supporting that population. We also do an English version of that program to support parents of at-risk youth, to provide them with the supports that they need. And then the last program that we have is our SFP 10 to 14, which is designed also for families of at-risk youth who are between the ages of 10 and 14 and who require support so that their children are not at risk for out-of-home placement. These are both evidence-based programs. Familias Unidas is out of the University of Miami, and SFP 10 to 14 is out of the University of Iowa. Right now, in this world of evidence-based programming, this is something that gives us good leverage in supporting our young people, because there's evidence around these strategies and how we can help them and support them. So all in all, Family Service is an agency, and 4 years later, almost 4 years later, I find that we are here to support our community. We have a tremendous staff. We have a tremendous board of directors, and we have tremendous partners like the guys, like all of you guys. I pray that I did not bore you with all of that, but I kind of wanted you guys to get a sense of who we are. And I think that would just open up for questions if you may.
Yes, Mark, could you discuss the fundraising process and also what your budget is?
Great question. So our budget today is $3.4 million. About 2 years ago when I started, it was $2.2 million. So we've, through our relationships with the county, have asked us to expand and do some new programs. ECFC, we expanded that, and then SFP 10 to 14 and Familias Unidas are all new programs to us. So we've been able to build our budget that way. We have a development office, and his name, well, one person makes that office. His name is Tyler. And Tyler does an amazing job of marketing who we are and telling our story. Tyler's idea around fundraising and development is similar to a Hall of Fame baseball player. If you have 10 at-bats, you get 3 home runs out of that, and perhaps you'll be in the Hall of Fame. So that's his philosophy around fundraising. So his strategy is we're going to share with the world and with the funders who we are and the work that we're doing, and perhaps they will be in line and they will have their priorities in line with our mission. I believe that Family Service is not an agency that is what you call mission creeps. We're a nonprofit, and we want to stay within our wheelhouse and our expertise. But Tyler goes about identifying grants that are consistent with our mission, some of the programs that I just talked about, and really just tries to share messaging around the work that we're doing. I don't know if I answered that question.
If you have like a pie and you break it into different segments, how much of the funds come from corporations? How much comes from the county? How much comes from large foundations with grants?
Yeah.
How much from individuals? Kind of
Yeah,
Trying to get a concept.
that's a great question. So I'm gonna make sure you get our impact report. We do one every year that talks about programs and numbers. But if I had to take a rough guesstimate right around now, probably about 80% of our funding comes from county or partnerships with ACO or our funders. And then probably about 10 to 15% is through grants and outreach through grants that way. And then the last about for annual appeal and those efforts around annual appeal. But I'm going to make sure that we get you our new impact report so that you can have those numbers specifically. And thanks for the question.
Mark, on the subject of child abuse prevention or assistance, at what point does family service get involved? Are they at the front end identifying a potential situation that child abuse may occur? Or does it come to your attention after it's occurred and you're helping them deal with it?
That's a great question. So our ECFC program, Ted, is a volunteer program. So initially, so there's two components to it. We have a volunteer portion, and then we have our county relationship portion. Our volunteer portion are for families who may have found out about us through word of mouth or through a referral. And, you know, they may have some risky challenges for their youth, and they volunteer to, you know, receive our support through a volunteer parent aid. Then the other portion with the county are for those families who they may have gone through the hotline with the county, and the county has a decision to make whether that family is accepted for service or goes to a diversionary prevention program. We're the prevention piece where prior to the family going into official official arrangement where they're under the supervision of Office of Children and Youth. So it's more of a prevention model prior to them actually having abuse or neglect deemed as a substantiated abuse or neglect.
Do you have a gauge of how successful you are in this area? Any way to test it?
So our outcomes for our work in that program are gauged by how many youth are entered the system, the child welfare system. So last year, I think Amy and her team had a number around 92% of the families and children that were supported did not go into placement and remain safely in their home.
Excellent.
And when you talk about at-risk population, that's a good number there. So that's the question. Yes, sir.
How large is your paid staff?
Great question. So we have 48 staff on board. 25 are full-time and 23 part-time. The full-time are broken down primarily through our Exchange Club Family Center program, our supportive housing program, Project One, and we have some in our counseling program. Many of our counselors are part-time, except for the ones in Kennett where they are full-time in the Kennett Consolidated School District. So again, it's what did I say, 25 and 23. Yeah, those are the numbers for full and part-time.
Mark, when you look at the community that is serviced by family service on two different views, one on a point in time view like today, how many community people are being helped, served by family service? And then over the course of a year, how many different people are, I'll say, touched by family service?
Yeah. You guys asked me about all the challenging questions. I wish I had my impact report with me. But I
got it.
yeah, it's a great question. I want to say it was close to 4,000 folks that we were supporting in all of our programs last year, but I'm going to get you that number today because I don't want to give you anything off base. But I know that, you know, these and we're a small organization too. But, I think our work is big, and I don't want to fluff the numbers, so I'm going to give you those numbers.
So when someone is being helped by family service, being engaged with a member of family service, how long do they stay engaged?
So we have some folks who have been our counseling for years,
Okay.
years and years, who see that as a level of support for them. Same thing with our Project One program. Not too many of our programs are time limited, unless, like for instance, for the Kenny Consolidated School District, when they may age out of school or move on from school, or within the supported housing program, they may have a time frame between the ages of 18 and 24 where they can be in our program. But a lot of our programs are designed for folks who need ongoing support. But they may have the ability to say, okay, I feel safe, I feel stable now, and I can be discharged from services. But I think we have the kind of open door policy where we want to support as many as we can. And you're welcome to stay with us as long as you can. Although we do have a waiting list for our counseling program. Counseling is a humongous need right now, and we're trying to do some things right size for our counseling department. Yeah.
And most of the people that you engage with, I'll call walk-ins, or are they referrals?
So I would have to break that down by program. So the program for child abuse prevention through the county, all those are referred to as from the county. For our counseling program, those are walk-ins or word of mouth. For Kenny Consolidated School District counseling, those are young people who have been identified by the school as needing a level of support for mental health.
How about Project One?
Project One, it's a
referrals?
volunteer basis. A lot of folks want to deal with their situation. We talked about the stigma a little while ago, but some people still want to deal with it privately. Some are open enough and they come in once they hear about our program. So I guess it would depend on the program. You asked the best question.
I'll shut up for a while.
No, you don't need to. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have anything for a program for, let's say, older people, seniors who are home alone, check up on them, or do they have to rely on neighbors to do that? Is there anything like that?
Yeah, family service does not per se have anything like that. I know there are partner agencies that check on elders, and they have programs to support
So
them.
you would refer that if someone were to call you, you refer them to this?
Yes.
agencies?
Yeah, so case management, if we can't provide the service, we best be sure to figure out who can provide that service. And again, it's relationships. So, we want to support you, even though we may not offer that service. We're going to try to link you to that support. Yes, sir.
Mark, you have a background, many decades in working with youth. I wonder if you could comment on a very troubling situation. You turn on the TV at night, and every night there's another youth killing another youth. There's a vigil, there's a march, people want to do something about it. Most of us grew up in the 1950s. You had a dispute, you had a fist fight in the schoolyard, the winner shook hands with the loser, and it was forgotten. Today, the response seems to be to kill each other. So how did this depravity creep into the culture, and what can organizations like you do to change it?
That's a great question, and it actually bothers me to see our communities suffering that way. And for me, one of the things that I think about, that proverb, it takes a village to support a child or a family. I often see that sometimes young people may not have the same level of supports that we had years ago, or same messaging. And in those communities that you're talking about, that we still have some communities that are intact. But those communities that are suffering in the way that you just discussed, in my opinion, we have less of a village, less of a culture of we're in this together. We should try to handle things peacefully. less resources that might be available to families and children. And you know, for those families that are struggling, I feel like I've always thought like if they had a meaningful adult or a meaningful person to be in there to support them, that might help change the lives or the trajectory of some of these kids that we're talking about. But I mean, we could probably talk for hours about, you know, why this has happened. But you know, the sense of community and has changed a little bit, and just basic respect and decency for one another. So agencies like Family Service, I guess we can continue to do what we're doing. Our staff members, you know, are passionate about this work. You know, it's not the pay; it's about lifting others up. You know, providing our communities with more supports and folks just being there and meeting folks where they are is what we can do to support that. But I agree, it's saddening and it's sickening to see how disputes are handled this way. Folks are not, you know, like you said, going back to the old ways of duking it out. So, thank you. Yes, sir.
During the holiday seasons, we occasionally have families come to our church outside the door who are a couple children in hand, and they're saying, please, can you give us so much money? And we realize that that's just a drop in the bucket of their problems. How much crisis intervention do you have? Are you part of a network that gets, these people can be referred to get them the type of guidance they need, instead of just money that may go to a drug issue that the parents have?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a lot of our, we talked about the case management earlier. A lot of our case managers are trained to just link folks to the supports that they need. If we can't do it, then we have to link to other supports. I know you're familiar with 211. I think they are a huge hub of resources and are doing a lot of linkage to supports. We don't necessarily have crisis intervention for the folks that are going to come to our door that day and say, you know, we can provide them with concrete goods or anything like that. But we do have the ability to refer out, connect that way.
So I wasn't aware of 211. So that's a number that is for Chester County? Or?
Yeah, for United Way. So a lot of folks who are experiencing homelessness there or any serious challenge can call 211. And the goal is that they will link them to supports. They have a hub of all of the agencies, child welfare or homeless agencies. They are the holder of that. They do a lot of connection that way. So I would say 211 is a way that they can support those as well. Yes, sir.
Do you partner with any educational institutions to provide internships to train future counselors?
Yeah, great question. So Westchester University, Bryn Mawr, Widener, those are the kinds of institutions that we have interns. And I don't look at it as cheap labor. I look at it, a lot of those interns come in and really want to support others. And so we've been lucky enough to have interns who fall in line with our counseling department and who really want to support folks that way. I kind of feel like, you know, they're providing us with support, but we're also providing them with a valuable experience of supporting others, you know, when they want to get into the field of counseling. But that's a great question. And yes, we did.
Mark, I want to come back to the point that Dave Walter was on with the current situation of the problems primarily in the big metro areas of violence of youth, just running wild and killing people at will. Not that your organization has the responsibility to fix that problem, because it's a big problem. Over your years of experience in dealing indirectly or being associated with that experience and what you see in the social aspect of it, what should the local governments or the local societies be doing to redirect that bad energy to back to something that's better.
Mhm.
What has to happen? In your living room discussion, if you could wave the magic wand, what needs to take
That's
place?
a great question, Ted. I mean, you think about last night, and today, Coatesville.
Yeah.
Had to
Another
close
lockdown.
the schools
Yeah.
today because of the threat of violence. And I think it goes to what we were talking about earlier around, so a lot of the substance of family and community, I think is, in my opinion, is not as it was 30 years ago, as you alluded to, where at the dinner table, we talked about things that were important, values, treating others with dignity and respect. That's absent in a lot of our households. Replace that with what? With people who can come in and do the counseling. I argue that our work is important that way. Replace that with people, and maybe have the trainer kind of model of, let's get back to some of the basics of working hard, respect, dignity, handling conflict maturely and with thought, and not necessarily resorting to violence. Coupling that with additional resources. I'm not a big person on giving handouts, but certainly resources, whether it be educational supports, therapy supports, that can help folks feel better about who they are, what their situation is. But that's a conversation that we all in this room could probably have for some time. But things are much different than they were 30 years ago, in my opinion. We have to find ways to support those vulnerable families. And we're in a world right now where when you talk politics, I know we never talk politics, but things are so split, folks are not seeing eye to eye. How do we come together and realize for common good that people are really hurt and they need support, and just having think tank sessions on what needs to go in there and support folks. I wish I had a better answer,
No,
but
it's
it's saddening, it's sickening to see the level of where we are.
I think part of the issue of fixing it is that many people would like to throw the switch and it would be fixed. And we've learned through technology for immediate response almost.
Mhm.
And we would like to throw down the flag and say, it's over, here's the magic cure. But that's not going to happen because the current situation did not happen overnight either. It wasn't good one day and bad the next day. It evolved over a number of years. And to bring us back to a more, I'll call it sane society, is going to take a number of years of doing certain things. It probably is so multifaceted and such a big problem. I think is one of the reasons it doesn't get addressed. It's so big that nobody feels they can do anything about it, so they just back off and let someone else do it. And that someone else has the same feeling. Let someone else, I can't figure it out myself, so. But somehow, those that we elect and put in positions to drive a solution, whether they create the solution or not, but to drive a change in behavior needs to come about. But the public has to be also aware that it's going to take time.
Mhm.
Little increments.
Yeah, and that whole notion of collective impact, I think there's a bunch of small agencies like Family Serve that need to pull together and band together and do some of the things that we're talking about here. But it's not going to happen overnight, like I said.
So family service, I asked a lot of questions on the child abuse one. What was the first segment of family service?
Counseling.
Counseling and counseling family. child abuse,
Counseling, child abuse, prevention, supportive housing, Project One for those that with HIV, and then our prevention programs, SFP 10 to 14, and familiars who need it.
Okay.
Yeah, those are two small programs, but they're trying to make a dent in
Yeah.
just what you're talking about, Ted. Help families achieve some stability and some good communication. And, you know, to be able to find ways of growing up and growing out.
But, you know, to your point, it's depressing almost watching the news, like last night we were talking about Coachville. But I think that, and I talked about the importance of our team. And, you know, our team are passionate and they're driven where they want to lift all those folks up. They want to be the individual to help us get back to where we were, kind of thing. But it has to be that collective thought, that collective behavior or energy that we have to do this together. Which is why relationships like the one that we have here with Westminster, and you guys in support of our work, you know, that collective collaboration is just huge for all of our folks to be up there. Yes, sir.
This is probably a loaded question, but I wonder if you would comment or comfortable to comment on the role of the public school system today. For example, as Dave indicated, growing up in the 50s and 60s, I remember we started the day with prayer. We pledge allegiance to the flag. Those are not there today. They were there when our children went to school and then before they went off to college. And I just wonder, because children are supposed to spend their day during the school year in school, if we've gotten away from some basic things that helped keep the families in respect for one another. I used to be a big proponent of public schools, and our kids went to public school and got a good education. Today, I think they're terrible, and the test results kind of bear it out.
Yeah, you and I are on the same page. I would say bingo to that. I went to a Catholic school for grade school, and then I went to a Quaker school for high school, then charter. And
There was discipline in the schools.
yeah, and then there was, you know, there was a thing that, you know, you respect others, respect yourself. You understand that we're all equal, you have a level of respect, and you know, there's God in all of this, and knowing, like my dad used to say to me all the time, "There for the grace of God go I." Was raised hearing that phrase every other week, and the ability to put yourself in other people's shoes, and to have that grounded foundation that you're talking about that's taught in the schools, first at home, and then also in the schools. I think it's critical. And my kids, I wouldn't send my kid to a public school, just on a personal level, just because of the lack of what you're talking about right now.
I think a lot of us feel that way.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for the folks that can't afford to send their kids to a private school or a Christian school or whatever you want to call it, to reinforce those family values that many of us grew up with.
But it's a shame, because to your point, you know, a lot of folks cannot afford for the kids to go to a private institution or Catholic school or anything like that. So I get your point, but I don't know what else to say about that, but I agree with what you're saying.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mark, thank you very much.
You guys are awesome with some good questions. Thank you.
Well, we didn't bring you here for a vacation day.
Ted, I
Thank
really
you.
thank you guys for having me today. You guys are amazing, and you have been supportive of family service. And we really appreciate that. And Rhoda and Bert, you know, have been on our board, and through
You gotta
those.
replace us, guys. We can only serve so long, so we're looking for new
boards.
new energy.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mark.
Appreciate you.
Thank
Appreciate you.
Yes, please. David, you have an announcement to make. Would you come up for important announcements?
Sorry, I apologize. I
We have on our written schedule for November 15th, one of the best talks of the fall, and we have to replace it because November 15th is Donegal Presbytery meeting. Donegal Presbytery is the next level of organization above our church. It contains over 50 churches. They will all be descending on this church. That parking lot will be full. We don't need to be part of that mass hysteria. But instead, I'm going to suggest that we sign up. I have gone to Donegal Presbytery before, and I know many of you are elders. And it would be good to check in on the life of the presbytery at the current time. There are churches, we have 4 pastors. There's churches that don't have 1 pastor. There are challenges within our Donegal Presbytery that are amazing. Some churches, as many as 4 churches, have 1 pastor between them. So the faith challenges that Jesus gives us in today's society can be viewed through the Donegal Presbytery, and you can hear a lot. So we're going to move that talk that's on the 15th to later this fall or early next year. So that was my main announcement, but I will keep you guys informed. There will be a recording of this great presentation today, and I will put it online as soon as it's posted. So thanks.
Thank you, Dave. And with that, our morning meeting is concluded. Have a great week, enjoy, and remember on November 15th, come to the Presbytery meeting. We will not be having the Tuesday morning fellowship meeting as we normally, that's on the schedule. So if you do show up for it, you'll have to go to the Presbytery meeting. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care, Bill, Larry, and Nancy. Have a good day.
You too. Enjoy.
I went to Harvard.
Thank you all. Nancy signing out. Thanks for the
Thank you,
program. Bye-bye.
Nancy.
Yeah, just to have
Thank
wait.
you.
Families.
Shutting down.